and away we go. It was mush, mush, mush all night.
Yes.
I will go Daffy Duck at the drop of a hat, Mace. Be very careful.
You'll go Daffy Duck. I'll just be Daffy. I'm doing this show without wearing pants.
Ha! If you're feeling a little lucky, Bugs Bunny-ish or Daffy Ducky, and thought you saw a booty tat, well, there's just one thing to do for that.
Watch Orange and Blue today.
Oh, you must think I'm so odd. I will quote Nietzsche, and then I will quote Daffy Duck. So.
Just part of the many sides of Cecil Lammey.
Ah, there we have it.
The many shades of Cecil Lammey.
Oh, there you go. I like it. I like it. I like it. It is a Friday show, Orange and Blue today, and some Broncos defenders returning, including PJ Locke, Mace. You wrote about it at denversports.com. Devin Key struggled against the Ravens. Yeah. So it's going to be nice to have Locke out there for the Broncos defense.
Yeah, even though he's going to be playing with a cast on his hand to protect the thumb that he injured 2 weeks ago in practice. And as Shawn Payton said today, that cast is going to be there for a few weeks, even up to 8 weeks, maybe, as he said like 2, 4, 8 weeks. Like, it's like, oh boy. Yeah. But you can play with it. It might make intercepting the ball a challenge, but the rest of it, he should be able to handle. And his return comes at a perfect time because last week, all you have to do is look at that play where Zay Flowers eluded Devin Key and took off and scored. That's what you do. You attack the weak part of a defense.
Yep.
Is it cruel? Maybe, but it's part of the game. When you see a soft spot, you pick at it and you attack. And that's what the Ravens did. And now the Broncos back to full strength on the defensive side, at least full strength without Alex Singleton, who, of course, is out for the year.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it on our Saturday pregame show, but mixing in more man and then perhaps bracketing a Travis Kelce. That's what I wonder if PJ Locke's best performance, he'll be sound against the run, right? And we expect Brandon Jones to be sound against the run because that's what he does. But I think Locke helping to perhaps just kind of take away some of those spots. And we've heard VJ talk about it with Kelce. It's like he knows exactly where to sit down. So maybe a guy like Locke can be out there to further cloud the picture when it comes to defending Travis Kelce.
Yeah, and just somebody who's got savvy experience. That's what you need in this environment. You're going into Kansas City, you've got to have players who can think on their feet, who have the reservoir of experience into which they can tap. And somebody like PJ Locke, hasn't obviously played a lot in his career, at least on defense against the Chiefs, because he was a backup for most of that time, but he studied them enough to where he knows what's coming from them, and especially what's coming from Travis Kelce, and he's going to put himself in the right place.
Yeah, he's going to put himself in the right position, and that's what we're looking forward to. Containing Mahomes, this is something. Now, we had a couple of Nick Bonito clips.
Yeah.
Rushing Mahomes is something we didn't yet hear from Nick Bonito. I want to hear from this one, Mace, and get more Bonito talk here on today's show.
He has unbelievable awareness in the pocket. So just knowing that you have to rush him the right way, and it can't just be one person. It has to be everybody that's rushing together. So, just caging him in, rushing him the right way, and just knowing that what type of playmaker he can be when he gets out the pocket. So,
caging him in, keeping him from doing that magic that he can do when he takes off.
Mm-hmm. Caging that tiger.
Yeah.
Right. And he mentioned rushing them all the right. You almost have to have 4 defenders working as one in terms of a mind meld and no one really getting out of position or exposing any sort of rush lanes for Mahomes to take advantage of. So I like that insight there from Nick Bonito. Shorter answer, but a lot of heft in that answer.
This is where you like what the Broncos have done in terms of generating a pass rush, because we are sitting here today talking about a team that's got 4 players with at least 4 sacks through 9 games. It's a collective effort. Nick Bonito, of course, had the 6-game sack streak that was snapped last week. I still think it should have been extended. I do believe that was a sack of Lamar Jackson that he had, but it was ruled a run play in a TFL. And then Jonathan Cooper with the big contract, 5.5 sacks. Zach Allen and John Franklin Myers, both with 4 sacks. John Franklin Myers has been exactly as you hoped he would be. But you talk about kind of the 4 guys who are going to be most involved with it. It's those 4 that working together more often than not, you're counting on them to crash through. Although you can say for Zach Allen and JFM, going up against an excellent Chiefs offensive line, this might be their sternest challenge of the season so far. Yeah,
it's a big challenge with those high-paid Chiefs offensive linemen and just incredible talent and strength. They're a tenacious group, Mace, and they want to out-physical you, which against the Broncos, that might be the wrong approach, actually. Just be technical against them. You get these guys fired up and you're trying to bully them, they may bully you back.
Yeah, got to be careful on this one. You got to be careful. But at the same time, the Broncos have, for the first time really in a while, you feel like they go in with everything you need. I mean, certainly last year, while they did shut down the Chiefs, they didn't have anywhere near as strong a defensive line as they have this time. Now, while you've removed Baron Browning from the equation, of course, he had a couple of sacks of Patrick Mahomes when the Broncos snapped that streak to Kansas City not this past October, but the October of 2023. You've got Nick Bonito growing. You have Jonathan Cooper maturing. I don't think you're sitting here saying you are lesser in terms of your pass rush because you don't have Baron Browning compared to when you had him last year.
Right. And JFM talked about with Mahomes what you have to do specifically. Here's what the big man had to say.
Just being relentless. You don't understand that you got to defend a second play. So, as a defensive lineman, you may not win on the first move, but getting to the second move and making sure you're staying with a motor and chasing them down, that's how you win the game. And, making sure that you limit those second plays. And, regardless of what it is I'm putting on the D-line, we got to be better. We got to get to him and get him down and make sure he's having a rough day.
I feel like one of the hobbits, Mace, like second breakfast.
Well,
I'm all for that.
I mean, you can refer to it in different ways. I mean, for me, it's operating beyond structure, beyond play design. Second play is probably a simpler way of doing it, but it's most effective. I mean, it's sort of like how you take play action and you make it its own phase, right? It's another way of looking at it. That, okay, you've got the play that's designed, but then you have the second play, and the second play is schoolyard, right?
Yep.
The second play is guys breaking it off. That's where the experience and the cohesion comes into play. And it's those second plays where he's most effective with Travis Kelce. And that's where the experience comes in, because as things break down, Mahomes and Kelce have this almost
Vulcan mind meld.
Yeah, like they have a mental connection. Like when Mahomes moves around, he seems to know exactly where Kelce is going to go, and Travis Kelce knows exactly where Mahomes wants him to go. And it's one of those things. It's not just how good the Chiefs are and how effective their offense is. It's what they do up here, because when you've got him in 3rd and 10 and Mahomes gets to that second play, gets beyond structure, and Kelce, who you've had covered, all of a sudden he breaks it off and gets a gap, and then they find it, and you're like, oh, man.
We had him.
That wascally wabbit, those wascally Chiefs got away from us again. To take it back to Looney Tunes, which is where we began the show, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny. It's Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. And the Chiefs play the role so often of just escaping the clutches and foiling your plans. That's why they've won 3 Super Bowls in the last 5 seasons. It's why they've been to 6 consecutive AFC championship games. Basically, they're on a run like Tom Brady and Bill Belichick had together in New England.
Right.
And it's hard being in the same division as that. I mean, for the Broncos, it's rough times.
An envy of your AFC West neighbor, that is for sure. But the attitude of this team, Mace, and we'll play the clip here from Riley Moss. He says every team is beatable. But you and I were in that locker room this week, and Troutman's like, we can't lose twice to Baltimore. This was a, kind of wipe it away. Don't ignore what you learned from Baltimore, but learn from what you did against Baltimore. I got the feeling the guys weren't down. They're energized, they're focused, and, they learned maybe some tough lessons, Mace.
Yeah, I think so. And definitely not a lot of staring at the floor and feeling sorry for themselves in the wake of Baltimore. It's like, okay, another game, another chance here.
Yep.
It's part of a maturing team. This is also where it starts with the leadership of the head coach. And when you have somebody like Shawn Payton, who has 16 previous seasons as a head coach, you've seen the ups and downs. You know that just because you get bombed one game doesn't mean it has to stay the same the next week. There's a real good mindset here. Ever since the Broncos got out of that 1-5 start, they haven't let things get out of control, right? The longest losing streak they've had in a single season since that 1-5 start is 2 games. They did lose 3 in a row if you're counting the end of the 2023 season and the first 2 of 2024. But I mean, so much change. You can't really put that together. But they haven't lost more than back-to-back games in a regular season since then. In other words, they're really good at kind of limiting the damage.
Yep.
Containing the fire, right?
Yes. I think that's a great way to put it. And I like the fact that they're not in there thinking like this is impossible or anything.
Oh.
Every team is beatable. Here's what Riley Moss said about that. I love this.
Yeah, it just goes to show, every team is beatable, and we believe that. We believed that last week. It didn't come to fruition, but, we got to be able to come back and be resilient, and, bad things are going to happen this next week, and we got to be able to come back and not let, one bad thing lead to another one.
Mm-hmm. Short memory.
Love that mindset. He's got the short memory on the field as a corner. He's got the short memory in his preparation as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mentally strong team, and it's one of the reasons why this Broncos team at 5-4, they're much greater than the sum of their parts. I'd say the sum of their parts is probably 3 or 4 wins at this point. The sum of their parts, if they just were playing to that level, 3-6. Instead, they're 5-4 and very much in the thick of the playoff race. And they'll be very much in the thick of the playoff race, even if they lose this game on Sunday in Kansas City. It's still all there for the taking, even if they don't get it done at Arrowhead Stadium.
Yes. Yeah. Nobody get too down on the result of this. You just want a better showing than you had against Baltimore. And you want to win, of course. We're not making any excuses there.
Oh, it would feel good for this team to go into Arrowhead, a place where it hasn't won since September of 2015. Man, it's been more than 9 years.
9 times. Was that the Bradley Roby play?
Yes. Brandon Marshall knocking the ball out from Jamal Charles. And remember, he studied him so well, right? Like he said, the thing that I'll never forget Brandon Marshall, the linebacker, telling me is that if he starts falling forward, then he exposes the ball underneath, and you got to get in there and punch. And so he starts falling forward, and then Marshall punches it out, and then Bradley Roby scoops up. And man, to hear Arrowhead Stadium go dead silent, except for the few Broncos fans and all the Broncos players on the sideline. I mean, it's stunning. It's still one of my favorite moments in all my years of covering this team, seeing that play happen. That's should have known then that team was going to be special when they were able to reach down and do stuff like that. And that's what made that defense special. It wasn't just that they could stop people. It was they made the play in that game. It was Chris Harris Jr. with the pick 6 against the Raiders.
Yep.
It was in overtime when Peyton Manning gets picked off in Cleveland. The defense going out there when the Browns are already in field goal range and pushing them out of field goal range. Not that this defense isn't good, but things like that make you recall just how that 2015 defense was an all-timer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Memories. Mace, people are saying in the chat room you need a CU hat because you have because they're like, did Mace go to VCU? Mace did not go to VCU.
My brother did.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, my brother did. But it's also, a hat from the hometown where I visited this week. So
there you go. That's good.
So, never forget where you're from.
It's important.
Yeah. RVA, the 804.
Nice.
That's where I spent the first 11 years of my life.
And that's why you say Virginia.
I actually went by the house where I grew up for those 11 years.
Okay.
Didn't look all that different.
Neighborhood look the same?
Neighborhood look the same. I mean, basically like people have changed the color of the siding on the houses, and maybe you got a new mailbox and things like that. But that was the thing. Like driving around, I'm like, it does not look all that different. I went by my old elementary school. It looked pretty much the same. The signage was the same.
Wow.
Okay. And it was when I went by there was no school in session, so I just kind of walked around a little bit and relived some memories, some childhood memories.
There you have it. They say you can't go home. Mace proves that you can. Also, Mace, home. You did go home. Behind the scenes, I hope you don't mind me telling out of turn. But we got to get you some food, buddy. So we got to wrap up today's show. I got to get to editing our radio show that we just did, and you got to get some food.
Well, it's like I said before we started doing this, because we also recorded our Saturday show earlier. I was hangry. Then I became merely hungry after having a little small pack of Jack Link's, white meat chicken turkey jerky bites.
Unpaid endorsement.
Yes. Now I'm merely hungry. I went from hangry to hungry, but I'd like to sit down and get a meal, and certainly already being here in Kansas City, I got some good options.
Yes. Yeah. You got some great options there. We certainly appreciate everyone for helping us out on our YouTube and telling us great show, guys, and all that sort of stuff. Like Mike says, hit that like button, gang. But Mace, and boy, do we need your help to increase our subscriber count before the end of the year. So about 48% of you that are watching are not subscribed. Please change that. Mace, how can people help us out on YouTube?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
and hit that notification bell
so that you
never miss vid.
That's right. He's Andrew Mason. Follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. And would you please, as always, we just ask you to do one thing. Stay frosty,